Good evening, everyone. This is Jonathan J. Dog Lederman, and you're watching the Anything Bucket on WRPBiTV. In the studio today, I have a public relations expert with many, many years of experience, helping you to maximize your message from Pugliese Public Relations. Please welcome Tina Pugliese. Tina, welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
And I'm so excited that you're here because we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is public relations and branding. However, before we get to that, I know you have an awesome story to share with the viewers about how you became involved in public relations. So if you can share that with our audience.
Well, I started my public relations in Washington, D.C. Now, that is really a difficult place to start PR because not only do you have other organizations and other companies, you have the government, you have the Pentagon, you have the White House. So, you know, there have been times up there that I would plan an event and the White House would have a big announcement. So it was a very difficult and challenging way to start a business. But I did work my way up and had my own PR firm for many years. I moved down to Florida and I realized this was a different market. It wasn't the same as Washington, D.C., where you had the big organizations. There are a lot of very small businesses down here, entrepreneurships, and things like that. And I thought, well, you know, these people really need some place to turn to. So I created Pugliese Public Relations, and my tagline is affordable public relations, because it is affordable. I think every business should realize the importance of this and should not be held back by the fact that, well, I don't have it in my budget. I can't afford it. I wish I could, things like that. So, you know, here I am in Florida, and I love what I do. It's very challenging. My clients I still have clients in Washington, D.C., and I go up there and I do media coaching for them, so I still have that big city clientele that kind of keep me on my toes, and I have my challenges down here of how to get the word out for the small to mid-sized business.
And that is a huge challenge. We've all been there, you know. How do I get known? You know, who am I? You know, and what you provide is such an important service because you allow people the platforms, and a lot of people think PR is write the media release, just send it out, you know, blast it out to a bunch of media outlets, and if you throw enough stuff out there, something's bound to stick. But there's more to PR than just the writing of the media release. And Tina, if you can share with us some of the nuances that somebody should know when utilizing your services and what they should be prepared for.
Well, you really want to have a plan. Usually when I interview a client, and I do interview clients and I do reject clients because their expectations are not realistic, but you have to have an idea of where you want to go. I will help you figure out how to get there with the PR tools that are available, and that might mean events, that might mean your media kit, it would mean speaking opportunities, things like that. So you really have to have an idea of where you want to go and what your goal is.
And the idea of planning your work, working your plan. And what I admired about you when I was looking at your bio and your website and everything is that you epitomize the idea that taking your passion, putting it into action equals success. And talking about success, do you have any success stories of any clients you've worked with that came and they weren't really known, they went from being unknown to now being a shining star out there?
Yeah, I did. I had a real estate company back in Washington, D.C. It was not large. It was just 2 offices, 2 branches, and I worked with them for, you know, several months, and I was able to get the owner, who was a woman, into one of the national women's magazines as one of the top 10 women entrepreneurs in the country. And nobody would ever guess that this was such a small little business because we took her successes, we took all the things that she was doing in the real estate field, and we created this thing, and the next thing you know, here she is, one of the 10 top women in the country. Now, the downside of that was she started to believe her own PR. And by that I mean Her clients or prospects would call her and she would not respond, she wouldn't return the calls. All of a sudden she thought she was bigger than she was. So that was the problem, and you can't believe your own PR. You've got to remain humble, truly.
Yeah, don't believe your own press. We have that in sports all the time. You're never as good as everybody thinks you are, and you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you may think you are. So never believe your own press.
Exactly.
And with that said, if you could give a few pointers about PR to the audience, and also allow the audience to contact you with your information.
Well, as I said, you must have a plan. You want to have a roadmap of where you want to be in 1 year, in 2 years. You've got to do this every day. A lot of people think, well, I'll just send out a news release every 3 months and I'll be fine, and then they go back and they don't do anything else. Well, the media are not used to hearing about them or hearing from them, so they just don't know who they are. It's got to be an ongoing routine. It's got to be part of your everyday business. You've got to have something to put out there and share with the world.
Consistency.
Exactly.
And you mentioned having the plan, getting in front of Rotary, Kiwanis, people that are synergistic to who you are and what you do. And those are some great advice, and we want to thank you for being here on the Anything Bucket. And if somebody wanted to connect with you to utilize your services, or I know you have a weekly PR tip sheet, which is very, very impressive. So if somebody wanted to get that weekly PR tip sheet, how could they get in contact with you?
Well, all they need to do is send an email to tina@pugliesepr.com and ask to be put on my PR tip of the week. Or you could follow me on Facebook. I've always got information on Facebook, and there's also contact information there.
And I know that you also have a website.
Yes.
And we definitely want to plug that website, because on that website is tremendous content.
PugliesePR.com, and there are e-books available, there are workshops available, there's all kinds of information available, and it leads to my blog that you can follow on my blog, so there's a lot of information there.
And once again, we want to thank Tina Pugliese from Pugliese Public Relations for being a guest here on the Anything Bucket on WRPBiTV. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, if people don't know who you are and they can't find you, you need to work on your PR.
I agree.